Welcome to the Nerdist Podcast number 920. Let's go to the Nerdist Community Corkboard straight away. This is one of the very exciting parts of the intro where we reach out to you, the Nerdist community, to promote things that maybe you have going on, because you got stuff. Like, for instance, Lexotron on Reddit writes, this year I decided, and my wife encouraged me to do a thing after thinking about it for 10 years, make a real feature film. Valerie is the name of the film, is full of drama, motorcycle, suspense, action, comedy, action, and action. It's got a largely female cast with a strong female protagonist. After mob boss Victor's daughter, Linda, goes missing, he puts biker gang member Valerie on the case. When she discovers the reason for Linda's disappearance, Valerie must go up against her motorcycle gang, Linda's husband Bernie, and the entire mob in order to set things right. Since we're in Canada, this goes on, since we're in Canada, and it's really hard to ride motorcycles in the snow, we went into production in early October without any funding or budget. We've since launched an Indiegogo page to help cover our costs and compensate our absolutely amazing cast and crew for their time and dedication. I cannot stress this enough. Our team is fucking great. If you'd like to support independent film or are just interested in seeing a pretty kick-ass movie next year, swing by ValerieFilm.com. Even if you can't back us financially, it'd be super awesome if you could follow the project on Indiegogo to help spread the awareness. Very good. This also comes from Johnny Nash, who says, I'm associated with a comedy club called Rhino Comedy, of which was recently just opened up by a teacher in our area in Suffern, New York. We do improv shows once a month. I have open mics every Saturday and do improv drop-ins every Sunday. We're trying to expand. You can learn more at rhinocomedy.com. This is us doing a thing, and we hope you can help us with our thing. Well done, Johnny Nash. And you too, Nerdist community. Whatever it is, you can do your thing. Do your thing. Come on. And then we'll promote it. And other people know about your thing. I'll be like, oh my God, I do a thing. I can't believe all I did was just a fucking thing. And you'll be like, it's so easy. I didn't even know that I could do a thing too, but I'm doing the thing. I'm in it now. Am I enjoying it? I don't know. Do I have to get to a goal before I enjoy the thing? Or do I just need to enjoy the thing while it's happening? Do I need to enjoy my burrito, you might say? I hope you understood most of those words, because I fucking didn't. Will you tell me what I said, please, later? This episode is Dana Gould and Janet Varney, two people whom I adore. Dana I've known since like 1991. Dana is sort of one of the godfather voices of the alternative comedy movement in terms of like influence. I think a lot of stuff traces, there's like a couple people like Dana and Bill Hicks, and there's like a few people that you can sort of trace and see kind of where their voices ended up and how they were expressed through certain comics that you love now. I got a whole chart I can bore you with. And also Janet Varney, one of my favorite people in the world. I adore Janet. She is brilliant, talented, so fucking funny. One of the funniest human beings I know. And it was really, really great to have her on. They are promoting Stand Against Evil, which Dana writes and showruns, and Janet is a star of. It's Wednesdays at 10 p.m. on IFC and IFC.com. Please support the show. I love these people, and I love that they are making the show, and I want you to love it and support it so they can make more of the show. And also, Janet not only was voice of Korra on The Legend of Korra, but also produces one of the three co-producers of SF Sketchfest, co-creator and co-producer of SF Sketchfest. Probably the best independent comedy festival. I'm going to say even like the best comedy festival in the United States. Every January into February, go to sfsketchfest.com. Can't say enough good things about Janet Varney. So here they are in the episode. And also, I'm posting this the day after Thanksgiving. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving in 2017, unless you're listening this in a time capsule as you found some weird media as you're drifting to Mars in the year 2119, knowing that you can probably never go back to Earth. But by that time, there's probably like pools and rec centers there and arcades. And so I bid you a fond journey from the distant past or the absolute present for the Nerdist Podcast number 920. Katie, please roll the thing now.
Now entering Nerdist.com.
impressive. The only part of King Kong I don't believe is I believe the gorilla, I believe the dinosaurs. I don't believe it when the producer goes, "We'll be millionaires, boys. I'll share it with all of you." Wait, whoa.
Oh, you mean when they're like, we're going to take the gorilla back to Broadway.
Yeah.
And he's going to be a star.
There's a guy who's a makeup artist. I don't know his name. He's a friend of a friend. And we were at some nerd dinner one night, and he goes, they bring King Kong to New York. They open up the curtains, and there he is. And they take photos, and he smashes the chains and escapes. And he goes, if he didn't escape, what was the show?
They hadn't really thought it through.
On the Ritz, based on
And now Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy.
Yeah.
It's really true. You really kind of opened with the conclusion.
But entertainment, audiences back then were a lot more patient
Yeah.
for things. I think one of the funniest things I'd ever heard at Largo, in the old Largo, because I'd never heard anyone say this before, was Bob Odenkirk just systematically shitting on vaudeville. Because he was like, he was the first one ever who was like, it was the stupidest for the dumbest people. Like, he just went through, and the way he broke it down, I was like, oh yeah, I guess it probably wasn't that great. You know, like if you just saw like a typical vaudeville show, now you're like, what am I watching?
There must be something about that family, because Bill would do this thing all the time. He goes, and he goes, you know what I wish? The Simpsons would be at the table just like this. You know what I wish? Somebody should write a book about growing up in Brooklyn in the 50s, because I have no fucking idea what that must have been like. Jesus Christ.
I just need the audience to know that Dana did the space work of getting up from the table and leaving.
Yeah, that's right.
Tell me about a fucking egg cream again.
While shouting to himself.
Yeah.
While shouting to himself. But you you tend to enjoy gorilla-based things.
Look, I have a wheelhouse.
Yeah. King Kong, Planet of the Apes.
Yeah. My therapist could tell you why, but we're not going to get into that.
We don't really need to understand. I mean, I know it's fun to watch
This is not a time for tears.
I know it's fun to watch an animal peel fruit with its feet, but I don't understand.
Yeah. Are they that so far behind us? Really?
I mean, I think instead of Us Magazine doing celebrities, they're so like us, it should just be chimps.
Yeah,
they're so like us.
Well, especially now that you find out like dolphins masturbate and things like that. Yeah,
yeah,
they are. They're just like us.
I wonder if dolphins are thinking about anything while they're masturbating, or they're just looking at a sea anemone, just all gurgly, and they just start.
You hear a whale song, and then you translate it. It's like, okay, we're on a train, and you're a dolphin, and you're a dolphin. I don't know.
I'm sorry, did that whale just ask, are you close? Yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure. And tonally, if I was hitting the right grade.
I'm so glad you picked up on that.
And the dolphin goes, and then the whale repeats the last part again.
Right, because the whale doesn't entirely understand dolphin, because dolphins always sound like they're going, yeah. So they don't really...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, sure, see? Yeah, I'm going to come real close, I am. Yeah, sure, see? It's just cloud.
Cloud.
So they have to, that's why they swim so fast. They have to swim away from their own cum clouds, so no one can blame it on them.
The cum clouds, by the way, at the Roxy all
they're
week.
great.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
They're touring with the opening for Butthole Surfers.
Yeah.
Thank you for the Stand Against Evil lunchbox that you brought, which is
Thank you.
fantastic.
Mm-hmm. We cheaped out, no thermos.
No, oh man, that's all right.
Is there ever a child that puts soup in a thermos?
Yeah, you just put it right in your lunchbox. Everyone knows
You
that.
just put the soup in there.
Kids
Drizzle
love
it
soup.
right into
Yeah,
your lunchbox.
that is the saddest thing to have in your lunchbox for some reason.
Yeah, soup.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's functional, but not exciting.
Not at all.
Not exciting.
Cup. That terrible plastic cup.
Is John McGinley related to Ted McGinley in any way?
I can only hope. He is he is second cousin of a guy I've known for a long time, Billy Cunningham.
Is related to Ted McGinley?
John McGinley.
To John McGinley. Ted McGinley, of course, is the actor who'd famously...
Soap?
Well, no, that's Ted Wass.
Oh, right, you're right.
Who was on
McGinley's
Blossom.
Love Boat, right? Yeah.
And Ted
And his
McGinley was the guy who would always come in as a sexy man character to freshen up a show, like in their 5th or 6th season. Like he came on to Happy Days. He came on to,
I know who
He
you
came
mean.
on to
Yeah,
Married
right.
with
With
Children.
Children, yeah.
Right.
He was in Revenge of the Nerds.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Marcy. That was like Marcy's hot.
That was Marcy's hot husband.
boyfriend
After they got rid of
husband, yeah.
Steve,
Yeah.
then Ted-
Revenge of the Nerds, which time is not kind to.
No, that movie does not. There are themes in that film that where
Couple
you
scenes in Animal House time is.
you're like, oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
oh. It's best to not go back a lot of the time because comedy really does like have the context of. Oh, at the time, like people made these kinds of.
It's like a bowl of tuna fish.
But it's
great on the day.
Comedy is-
great on the day.
comedy is 100%
Can we
tuna
leave
fish.
the whale and dolphin masturbating thing behind?
Well,
and
again, I
move on
like
from
to-
tuna fish.
I like
Well,
to
now
work
the
the
dolphin's jerking off to the tuna bowl.
yeah.
The
Chicken
tuna-
of the sea.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be very exotic for a dolphin. Is to
Choking
think-
the chicken of the sea.
Yeah, yes!
Ew!
We did it.
Oh, how much money did we raise? I forget.
We're at negative $1,000.
I forget which charity. Probably for the best.
Took all their money back.
Yeah.
Like gave it all
Yeah.
back.
Saying to someone now that Hugh Hefner passed, I will never see a withered chicken neck ejaculate dust again and not think of Hugh Hefner. Like somewhere, there's an 18-year-old girl who was his girlfriend when he died, and she's just trying to get over it, but she's turning on the television.
Yep.
But it's Halloween, so it's just the Mummy and Dracula. It's like, God, he's everywhere I look.
See, and I can't stop thinking about a mother dolphin who's walked in on her son dolphin just as he's ejaculating to a bowl of tuna and then hearing, sorry, Charlie. Like, that's what I'm having a hard time. That's what I'm having a hard time with, too. Which translates to, you don't knock. And she's like, but there's no doors.
exactly.
And I don't have hands.
Just apropos of nothing, my friend was in an airport and heard like a woman in French yelling at her kid, and the kid was going, "Oui."
Désolé. There was there's a movie that I was going to ask you about that just came out, and it's called it's a James Whale movie.
Of Gods and
I
Monsters?
can't.
Nope.
His last name is Whale. Come on.
Yeah.
This is so. I can't. Oh, I don't want any more sea creatures. I'm done.
Janet
Change
picks her
his
battles.
last name to something else.
Janet picks her battles. James Dolphin.
Thank you.
Mr.
Thank
Blowhole?
you.
Yes.
Thank you.
We named it that way on purpose. But
Doesn't it have
James,
an old soul song? Mr. Blowhole.
this movie is called like it
just came out.
It just came out, and I don't know if it's a movie that didn't come out before or was remastered or something. But I just saw it on iTunes, and I started watching it, and it's listed as a horror comedy, but it wasn't particularly funny. James Whale movie, and I know of Gods and Monsters is the biopic. Fuck, what is it called? Katie, will you look that up? It just came out and it's on iTunes, and it's called like.
Did he?
But it might not
write
be
it, or-
new.
He directed it. It's
older, but
very
just-
old.
Yeah, because he's dead. Because he
and
died in the 50s.
I think Boris Karloff. I think Boris
The Old
Karloff.
Dark House is a horror comedy that he directed.
What is it called?
The Old Dark House?
The Old Dark House. Yes.
Yeah. That's been around.
So,
yeah.
but it just
They may have remastered it or something. But
So, can you explain to me what the comedy part of that movie is?
well, it was an attempt to. It seems to be Arsenic and Old Lace, just like a different version of it. It
Right.
Was or like a Spooks R Us. Like I think it was remade by Hope and Crosby in the 40s as like Catch That Ghost or something like that.
Gotcha.
It's pretty sweaty. It would be the.
I think Gloria Stewart is in it
Yeah,
too.
she is.
Yeah,
She is in it. Yeah, she's in it.
Yeah, I mean it's
It's a whale of a good time. I know that.
hey, there you go.
I'm good with it.
Janet-
I've made peace with it.
Janet,
It's a
Janet's
movie, but what you're
all
saying is
allowed.
it's a story without a purpose. Is what
Hey,
you're
yes,
saying.
exactly. It doesn't. Yeah, exactly. And then
It's pretty sweaty.
Yeah, I love
really
it.
like
It is
that.
very sweaty.
That's a great.
It is
And
very
it-
sweaty.
Yeah, that guy looks
like Boris Karloff.
Yeah, and there's like a like a drunken manservant who
Yes.
just starts attacking people.
Yeah.
and so all the characters are very extreme.
It's it's funny. It's rare that a movie from the 30s is basically remade in a much better way 50 years later. But you know what that movie basically is. But it's a great movie. Is Clue.
Oh,
there you go.
Kind of.
Yeah, and Clue is great. And I've only just seen it.
Oh yeah.
Really? Yeah.
And it's so good.
Yeah, it's really, really
They
good.
and there's another one where they got away with a lot of jokes in that movie that you're like, well, I was surprised the game company allowed some
Yep.
of the, because there's some very adult humor in there.
I think that was I know that John Landis was involved in that, and I think it was one of those. Where he says, "No, we're gonna do it."
And the multiple endings was really fun too.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
The multiple endings.
It's a
was
really,
fun,
really
too.
great
Yeah.
movie.
How are you, Varnes?
I'm good.
Do you have the? We don't. Janet and I live blocks from each other, but I think we're gonna miss the Halloween walk because I don't think it hits our street.
And our house is like the nexus.
Fucking
Yeah.
collection.
It is. It really
plate.
is. That's where everyone stops.
The
It's
hard-
where all the
the hard
parents
candy
stop.
center?
It is the hard candy center.
To start a new theme.
Her house is the
It's the
intersection of like 5
convergence.
streets.
Yeah, it's the convergence. So that's when they block the streets off, and so that area is sort of like everyone lingers in the middle section.
Oh, yeah, I can
and
see that.
Yeah, and they come up and yeah,
That's
we
a
really
hard
have to
neighborhood to
stock
trick or
up.
treat in.
Yeah, no, it's a whole guided thing.
Yeah.
They set up cones.
Parents,
they do.
Parents
close
set up
the street off.
stations to
Oh,
make sure
perfect.
that the cars
They're
are
like,
going slowly.
they're
That's
parents like
perfect.
waving flashlights. It's actually quite bureaucratic. It really takes all the fun out of it.
I'm terrified of driving through on Halloween night. Always, I'm so like half a mile an hour. I'm just terrified that some
You're
kid's
gonna
going
hit
to
a
jump
child,
out.
yeah.
Well, not that I noticed that the potential last game of the World Series is on Halloween night, and
It's so funny. That's the thing I care about the most. The thing I care about,
next
that
door.
I care about the least.
next door the least. Yeah,
human,
exactly.
so it's human sports. Will there be points accrued in the sports game?
Yeah, yes, that's
I hope
exactly.
people get things in the points box machine.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. It's almost as if a gorilla moved next to a baseball diamond.
My ears get
Yeah, I'm not interested anymore. Is this gorilla playing baseball? Because then you got me.
That I would watch. If one team had a gorilla,
But
that could randomly attack members of the other team, or if you could run the bases with a hot iron,
yeah.
just to jab at the
But
guy
you,
trying to get
but you
you
see,
out.
like the second baseman go to catch a ball, and it's actually just a handful of shit. He just catches it in his mitt. But I mean, not to upset any people who are baseball fans, particularly Dodgers fans, but I will kind of be relieved if LA doesn't win because Los Angeles does not know how to celebrate wins in a safe
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
No,
And
not
so
in a safe way, no.
If it were the type of thing where LA had won and it were Halloween. That's a fucking city apocalypse.
Yeah, that's
That's
not.
right.
That's a bad
That's right.
combo.
Motherfuckers
Anytime.
like shoot off guns
Yeah,
and
there's a
start
lot of-
set things on fire and flip
Yeah.
cars.
Yeah.
There's a
And then
lot
all the
of-
Dodgers fans will also be celebrating, much
Yes,
like the
yes,
children,
exactly, yes,
the Halloween
exactly.
children you just described.
Yeah, but it would be like a Halloween. Depending on if you don't live in the city, it would probably be perfect because there would be a Halloween hellscape for all of the trick or treaters
Yeah.
to walk through.
It's worse in Boston when the Celtics win. It's just as good. But there's this strange thing that like they have to ask people, please don't shoot at clouds. when did that become a big? Please don't. And they did that during the hurricane. And
you can't tell me to stop shooting at a cloud.
yeah, please don't shoot the cloud.
You can't stop me.
Hey, cloud's an asshole. Why did I shoot the cloud? Because he's a fucking asshole.
Yeah, I'm gonna shoot it. You can't stop me from shooting the cloud.
My friend in the late 70s was at the 4th of July fireworks on the Boston Esplanade, and he said after every single explosion, the guy behind him went to his friend, check it out, Star Wars.
Wow.
Check it out, Star Wars. Check it out, Star Wars.
Someone needs to sample that and
Yeah.
put it into a song that is mixed with the bass track from the
Yeah.
Imperial March. Is what needs to
Check it
happen.
out,
Check it out,
Star Wars.
Star Wars. Check it out, Star Wars. So how's it going? What are you up to? You're in Sketchfest mode now.
I'm in Sketchfest mode, and then our show premieres.
Stand against evil.
So we've been doing a bunch of stuff for that.
Yep. November 1st
it's
on
good.
IFC, on IFC.
On IFC. Yeah, but it's been good. I mean, Sketchfest is it's very consuming. It's consumptive. It's like consumption. I have consumption.
You and Joni Mitchell
My
have
brain
the
is-
same thing, whatever it is.
Oh, she has the thing of like I have bugs under my skin, huh?
Oh, is that what it is?
You know that what's that called? It's a specific like the argument is most people say like it's only in your head, and then there's a group of people not connected
That's
to
why
each
she wrote
other,
that
but
song,
who are like
you're a poet. Spiders! Spiders!
That's right. Yeah, it's like a very specific thing where there's an argument as to whether or not there could be any.
Put bugs under my skin.
A lot of people say she was inviting it. It must be. Now listen, this is way too close. Formication? That seems. So for her, she's in Malibu, so I guess it's Californication. It's a medical term for a sensation that exactly resembles that of small insects crawling on or under the skin. It's one specific form of a set of sensations known as paresthesias.
Oh, yes.
That's the word I've heard, which also include the more common prickling, tingling sensation known as pins and needles.
But I would imagine
Katie?
kicking that up a notch to bugs and spiders is probably endlessly unnerving.
Yeah, I mean, if you imagine,
Great at Halloween,
if you
though.
felt
Phobic
sure,
of it, too,
that you had something crawling under your skin, that would be.
Did she
you could go
do a
crazy.
lot of drugs when she was
That's a good
young?
question. I honestly don't know. I don't know.
if
She
it's
certainly
that
was
or
running
if
with
it's a
that crowd,
disease
but
and, yeah.
Well, because I just know, if people don't know, Janet Varney is an amazing singer and a guitar player. And I wish she would sing more because her voice is amazing.
Which I did not know until I heard her sing.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, she used to fucking sing in coffee houses and shit when she was in her 20s and worship Joni Mitchell. So,
But the song I heard you sing,
oh
which sent my jaw rocketing to the floor like a Tex Avery coyote, was Love Removal Machine.
no, it was She Sells Sanctuary.
Same
by the
thing. It's
Cult.
the same
Yeah.
song. I'm pretty sure it's
they're
the
pretty
same.
It might be the
close.
same song.
Yeah. Yeah, it was She Sells Sanctuary, which is not even an
It's a warm-up.
in
It's
and
a
of
verbal
itself is
warm-up.
Yeah, it's a tongue
It's a
twister
tongue
in and
twister.
of itself.
Yeah.
But it was amazing. It's amazing. It's truly amazing. I cannot sing.
jeez.
I don't even like to pretend to sing.
do you still sing at all, ever?
I mean, I sing for like Thrilling Adventure Hour stuff when we do. Occasionally, we'll do stuff like that. I'm trying to think. I feel like I sang something not that long ago, but I can't remember what it was. So that's not good. That's not a good sign if you think it's recent and don't know what it is.
Love Removal Machine may be it may be impossible to sing that song without pointing to the audience. It would be interesting to see if you could.
Tie your hands down?
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
could sing Love Removal Machine and not go Love Removal.
You break your own arm to get it out just so you can flop it at the audience because you can't.
Flap it. Yeah.
Janet and Kit Pongetti sang as there used to be a duo called Fempire, which was great because they wrote a couple great fucking songs. But you
I
guys
make amazing Kit Ponchetti.
She'd appreciate that.
she would appreciate that.
We're saying that like she passed away. She's
She's
alive
still
and well.
around. Yeah, but they did a great cover at UCB one night of Dog and Butterfly, the Heart song, the song The Heart.
Oh,
that was a real
I
good
forgot
cover.
about that.
But I almost kind of feel like maybe we should close this episode later with a Fempire track.
Oh, okay.
You got to drop in.
Me and my vagina. That's still out there, and
that's
that's a weird. There's a weird crossover of Cora fans who found that on. I think there might be like that. Someone might have taken some Cora like
Footage?
that flaps and put that song to it.
the
But-
Cora Flaps.
The Cora flaps. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Again, we're all just walking past.
Just walking. Just let's
But
stride
we have
on
to.
by. Let's stride
We have to.
right
Yeah.
on by.
After all the fish puns.
Yeah, let's
Yeah.
not make. I'm not even going to make eye contact with.
we're
that.
not.
probably-
not even gonna just let that one
Probably a
walk
good
over.
idea.
I'm at the end of the. I'm at the end of the exit ramp, and I'm just waiting for the light to turn green, and I'm just going to pretend to fiddle with my
Yeah.
radio until I can.
No,
That joke
nobody
now
saw
from
it
the other
and
side
heard
of the street is like, really? Nothing? Yep, that's right. We're
That
letting
joke
it go.
is going to shame you on social media. I want you to be aware that
Really
Did you hear what I
disappointed,
said?
Dana.
Yeah. I
heard what you
Really
said.
disappointed.
I heard what you said.
that's where we take out our grievances now.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
But there's no. But Cora is done. Or did they ever talk about more Cora?
Well, they do because
I was kind of hoping that just slid
just
under the.
a pinched closed lip smile.
I was kind of hoping
from
that
you,
just slid
hit
under the door.
Pinchiest. Dark Horse does these comics now, and so they have me do events where like we'll read from the comics and we'll do stuff with the fans. But yeah, I don't think. I mean, they always only ever wanted it to be 4 books, 4 seasons. So we did the 4 seasons, and then
Because it was always based on the Alan Alda film 4 Seasons.
it was always based on the band.
I was going for the band.
If Alan
Yeah.
Alda could airbend, that was the initial pitch.
I now summon thee.
Oh, that's the
What's the
There's
trick
another show that does not age well.
MASH?
MASH does not age well.
Doesn't?
No.
I haven't seen it in quite a while.
No, it's a little too tied to the zeitgeisty. It
Oh,
has
right.
It has bell bottoms.
Gotcha.
Oh, I guess that makes sense.
Do you want some more bad food? Of course I do. War is terrible.
Right. Yeah.
There is something very satisfying about watching period piece movies that were shot in other periods that aren't now, and seeing like, oh, this was supposed to be set in like 1920, but it was shot in the 70s, so everyone still has giant collars and like they couldn't, they refused to actually be legit. They couldn't. They were like, well, we still need to be stylish.
Huge lapels.
We still need to have bell bottoms.
We had a couple over the other night, two ladies, and we watched Christine. And some of the stuff in there was real not great.
That's about 83?
83, I think it was 83, and there were a lot of...
Worked at the drive-in that year.
There were a lot of, like, look at her, she's a walking sperm bank, and we're like...
Yeah.
But I mean, they're funny, they were really cool about it, but it's
at
just...
the end, again, it's one of those things that's like, and this was only this is 20 years ago, as I heard.
Well, that was 30 years ago. 35 years ago almost now, so it's... But you really do... It's so interesting to watch with 2017 eyes to watch stuff and be like, what are they?
I have specials, my stand-up with giant bits that I could not do today.
Yeah.
Because the giants will object. The giant community is very sensitive.
Fee, fi, fo, fuck you.
Fuck you.
That would have been the George Carlin. You know what? I hate giants. You know what I say? Fee, fi, fuck you. And then a brilliant bit deconstructing the Bible. And you think, why did he waste his time with the giants thing? That was the maddening thing. This incredible bit, like he'd deconstruct the Bible. And it would just like leave you on the floor, and then it'd be, you know what? I hate farting into balloons. Who does that?
They've built kingdoms in the clouds, yet they have to crawl down a vine. They can't make a stairway. Weird.
Well, it is. That's why it can be very dangerous to deconstruct old comedy. Sometimes I think it's like, maybe you can look back and go, society as a whole did not have acceptable views, but it wasn't, it just at the time.
Peter Sellers' entire career is cultural appropriation.
I mean, yeah.
His entire career
is
unacceptable.
I mean, like,
today.
the only thing that holds up is Mickey Rooney and Breakfast at Tiffany's.
That's the only thing.
No.
Because people love that
no.
movie. And I think people only like that movie because of that horrible song.
Moon River?
No.
Wait, there's a...
And I said, what about breakfast at Tiffany?
That made people hate that movie.
Angry
I thought
that you just reminded me that
yeah,
song
it exists.
He will say,
I know,
we've got nothing in common.
The studio's big note on Moon River was, we love the movie, hate that, get rid of the song.
Really?
Yeah, big genius. But then you look at when you watch it, it's about my, a character that I'm waiting. As Hollywood continues to be subjected to awareness-a-palooza on a day-to-day basis, one character that, as the father of three daughters, and my girlfriend has a daughter, I'm tired of the lovable, well-adjusted but down-on-her-luck girl who becomes a hooker.
Right.
You know how many people that has happened to? None.
Yeah.
It's like the affable slave. I'm a slave, and then I think I might go into investing. I don't know. Right now, I'm going to be a slave.
It kind of makes you look back at Pretty Woman and go, I don't know.
No, I thought that at the time. It's like, nothing. Isn't there a scene like where her other hooker friend has a big teddy bear? And just,
I think there was
on princess phones.
I think there was. I think there was supposed to be a scene. Wasn't the original movie darker? It was called like $3,000.
Yeah.
And I think the friend dies in the original version of the movie, and it's really fucked up.
Yeah.
And then Gary, I think Gary Marshall was like, "Let's make it a fun hooker movie.
Let's make it a night."
Yeah.
Well, if you redo that and you just put Harvey Weinstein, you CGI him over Richard Gere, that's a much
different
better
story.
It's a much more realistic story that people don't want to see.
Do you remember? I'm sure you remember this. It's your career when you did.
Don't be so sure.
Did you know you
Don't
know
be
how to
so
sing?
sure.
Janet was on a show called On the Lot, which was basically it was like American Idol, but for filmmakers.
Yeah.
And so Gary Marshall and Carrie Fisher was in that too.
He was a judge. She was a judge.
And we always used to make fun of him. Jen and I used to date. I don't know if anyone knows that, but just because I'm going to reference things, people are going to go, "Why do you know
That is
that?"
a coincidence. You and I used to date.
Jade and I used to date too. That's why we're all here. And we always used to make fun of Gary Marshall would start sentences with "My sister Penny."
My sister Penny.
My sister
My
Penny.
sister Penny. He always seems like he was chewing on something while he said it, but there was
scenery?
nothing in his mouth. It must have been that.
He had a book, and for some reason, it was lying around one office I was working in, and he was like, "Here's how I saved $5,000 on Happy Days." They were deliberating. I'm doing Gilbert Gottfried for some reason. They're deliberating. Richie was on a jury, and they didn't want to build a jury set, so they just had them walk into Arnold's and just started the scene with Richie going, "They're painting the jury room, so we're deliberating at Arnold's."
Also, wait, I can't believe there was a plot of him serving on a jury. That seems really...
Yeah, you can. And it was terrible because a
That's
guilty
so-
man was sent to the gas chamber. It was a very
Wait,
special
what?
Happy Days.
Are
It
you
was a very
kidding
special
me?
Happy Days.
No, it was an innocent man.
I was willing to
Jesus.
believe that.
It was when Styx Cunningham was framed for a murder he didn't commit and was later killed.
No, good. Yeah, it was one of those.
Wasn't that his name, Styx?
Which one?
When the African American drummer for the band came.
Well, it
and
wouldn't have
he
been.
said
His
he
name
was-
wouldn't have been Cunningham.
But I think he had to. But I think he pretended he was Richie's brother. Some terrible.
Oh,
joke.
something crazy.
Yeah.
Is Cunningham one of the- oh, yeah.
the past version of nobody in Happy Days after season 3 had 50s centric haircuts.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Scott Baio just had a shag.
Yeah.
No guy had a
exactly.
shag. That guy in the 1950s got his head stove in with a pipe.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Was
funny.
that the trial? That was the trial that he
was
was
the
having to
trial.
deliberate
I
on.
remember watching Happy Days, and yet I can't. And I remember worshiping Fonzie.
Yeah.
But I can't exactly remember what it was that I liked about the show.
In reality,
Familiarity?
he's a terribly tragic character, Fonzie. I mean, he's this guy. He's what's his name in Dazed and Confused? He's the guy that never moved on,
Right.
Never
Like
grew
Matthew
up.
McConaughey's role.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just still there.
Probably like 28, still dating high school girls.
Yeah, and Fonzie's.
But he had an office.
It was a bathroom, Janet. His office was a toilet.
His big thing was telling younger men to meet him in the toilet.
His desk was a toilet. His to-do list was poop in a shitter.
Everybody
Be sure
loved
he
Fonzie.
needed a desk. I got to be
He
honest
needed
with
a
you. I
desk.
think it's probably okay that he just
We're
had
making,
the shitter.
and we're making fun of not to make fun of Henry Winkler.
No,
who's-
because he's
the best
wonderful.
person ever.
Yeah.
He's wonderful.
He's one of those people that you meet and you're like, you can move in with me if you
Oh
want.
God, I
Yeah.
worship
Yeah,
him. That
yeah,
man
yeah.
is a doll.
I had to slap him on the face for an episode of Children's Hospital, and I was so upset about it. He was like, "Just slap me. It's okay, just slap me." I was like, "No, we'll do like a fake thing." He was like, just slap me." So I slapped him, and it felt so weird and wrong.
You were literally just hitting the Fonz.
I was.
Yeah.
I was. And then I was like, "I'm so sorry. I shouldn't have done it. It was." It was. Guys, the Fonz couldn't say he was wrong about
He
anything.
couldn't say it was
Yeah.
wrong. Yeah, and he couldn't say love.
Love.
Yeah, couldn't say love.
That was actually the wrong joke rewritten for a later season.
That was it. Yeah, that's exactly right.
And Happy Days is the origin of the. A lot of the children don't know, and I don't want to, prepare to have your mind. You might, if you're driving, you might want to pull over. Happy Days is the origin of the phrase "jump the shark." It was the
yeah, because
episode where
Fonzie jumps over the shark,
quite literally jumped
Yeah.
the shark. Why? Because Evel Knievel was popular at the time.
and they wanted to do something.
There's another aspect. The 70s was such a bizarre era. Like Evel Knievel was this guy that used to dress up in fancy clothes and kill himself every 4 months, and you'd watch.
Well, yeah, and
Yeah.
it was a big television event. But going back to jumping the shark, there is a subsection of jumping the shark devoted to Ted McGinley. The idea being that when he is introduced on the show, that it may jump a shark. And what show did he come on in the last season or two?
Happy
Days.
Happy Days.
Yeah.
McGinley curse.
Yeah, it continues. He was the cousin Oliver of Happy Days.
He kind of was. Not to shit on Ted McGinley if he's watching the show. Listen, you got some good
That's a
jobs.
good gig.
Trying to make a living. He's trying to make a living.
good
Nothing
gig.
wrong with that.
He's a ham and egger.
He's a... I don't know what that is.
A working job.
guy.
Yeah, ham and egger.
Oh, that's what I wanted to ask.
That's a Bruce Campbell expression.
Is what when you look at certain like origin, like the origin of names that are like, you know, the cobbler, like the shoemaker, like
Sure.
Bob Shoemaker.
Right.
What is Cunningham? Like, is Cunningham like he's a clever, hilarious guy?
He's a clever pig.
Yeah, a clever pig.
Yeah.
Cunningham.
Yeah.
We got to
I
get to
was
the
thinking
bottom
like
of this.
Company Siemens. It's a big advertising firm. It's a big investment house. It's on, if you listen to be brought to you by Siemens. If
Yeah.
Siemens is so good, who left the meeting going, okay, Siemens, we'll be called that?
That's someone's last name, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I, Dick Siemens, demand that this company be named
Where'd you
after
go?
me.
Ball State.
Taint Vassar. Hey, come on.
I hear that you've been made a very lucrative offer by Gismans, but we'd like you to stay
Look at
here.
to stay at Siemens. Gismans.
I'm Mill Gisman of the Siemens Investment House.
This is basically just what the whole podcast is going to
Exactly. But no, all those names, Smith, if you were a smith, you were a blacksmith.
Yeah.
That's what the origin of that name. Miller, you worked in the mill.
be.
That's why I want to know what Cunningham
so
is.
your family lineage is the Jim Varney.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. We created Jim Varney. He
You
was
walked
an
into
automaton.
Poked your head into
Do I
people's
remember
windows
clearly
and
that you
said, hey,
did
Vern.
tell people for a while that you were related to Jim Varney?
I only told one person. It was a very close friend of mine in high school who was so incredibly sweet and just charming and delightful, and also gullible enough to believe that Jim Varney was my uncle. And so I told her just stories about my dad and Uncle Jim, and she kind of never believed. Like she was never willing to fully commit because she was right to not trust me.
Yeah.
And then finally, I took her home. This is something, by the way, I think a sociopath would do. So that was like my one day of being a sociopath, where I was like, you know what? If you don't believe me, just come to my house. I have pictures of my dad and my Uncle Jim together. And she was like, okay, I will. And I was like, okay, let's go, with zero plan whatsoever of how that was going to work.
You didn't know she was going to keep calling you up?
I just went with it. And
I just see you walking past your house. I live somewhere around here.
I can't, if I could remember. No, I went and like found some old photo albums of my dad's, and again, just like feelingless, like I'm just gonna do this. Like I don't remember any feeling one way or the other. That's why I'm saying it was sociopathic, because I just remember being like, this is either gonna work or it's not, and flipped through, and then found a picture of my dad with someone that kind of looked like him. So I was like, there you go. And she goes, oh, that is Jim Varney.
Now, did you feel
Shame
at all?
I've never felt since. It was what a gift. What a relief. I can't even tell you.
It is. I was. You're talking about like the origin of. You don't know? Is Varney French?
Yeah, it's French. It
Varney?
was. Yeah, it's like they flipped the A and the E.
Right. But you don't know what it means. Is it a verb in French?
No, it's like there's a like a Chateau de Vernay in the north part of France.
I was talking to a very famous actress that was staunch, like did not like say that that's a myth, that Smith does not come from blacksmith and Miller does not come from Miller. It was Agnes Moorehead. We were talking about that.
Boy, what is that last name?
I know. I was gonna say she probably has some deeply emotional reason based on her own. Yeah, yeah, because hers like means like field toilet.
Does it?
I don't know. Moorhead.
Sounds like Moorhead.
Yeah,
Sounds
well, I
like
guess
something
that's
you'd
true
hear at a
too.
specialty bar.
And her husband's like,
But the last name doesn't check out.
I can tell you what it don't mean.
You stop that, Bob.
Her last name should be Agnes Bitchin' in the Kitchen. That's what it should be.
Okay, I'll get out of here.
My dad's
Give me more money to spend.
My dad's loving nickname for my mom was Dog Meat. Hey, Dog Meat, what's going on out in the kitchen?
Are you? Oh, why am I ever surprised? I should never be surprised knowing what I know
no
about
one
your
in my
upbringing.
family is aware of the concept of a podcast, so I can tell you that. I was talking to my mother. I was talking to my mother yesterday, and you call up. I'm a grown man.
Although all the recent jizz jokes would suggest otherwise. But
Yes.
continue.
Yeah, fair point.
I am chronologically advanced.
Yes.
And like, hey, the show's gonna premiere season 2, and I'm just well, your sister who works in animal control in Connecticut. She is the only one they will call now to break up a dog fight. She is the only one that will go. Or if it's 2 a.m. and there's a cat in the road or something, they call your sister.
What are you supposed to say to that?
I don't. It's supposedly apparently a cause for great celebration.
Well, I guess my comedy special isn't
Yeah, exactly.
the thing I've worked for 30 years
Yeah.
on.
But I do imagine my sister pulling up to a dogfight, going, "What is this really about? How did this start?"
Yeah.
Let's all just...
Sir, and then you go right into cop speak. Sir,
please
at this time,
step it back.
At this time, sir, I'm going to ask you to step back, sir. At this time,
Do not appreciate your bark right now. I'm going to have to ask you to tone it down just a little bit.
That's good de-escalating, guys. I think that a lot of cops could take a
What
lesson
are we
from
really
that
fighting
approach.
about here?
what's
huh?
really going on, sir? I'm going to ask you right now at this time to back away.
I need to ask the Staffordshire Terrier to take a step back, please.
Oh my God! You know what this is reminding me of? I don't know if this is gonna.
I'm going to ask him to sit. Be a good boy. Please, I'm asking the Staffordshire Terrier to please be a good boy right now. Please.
Sir, you're not being a good boy.
You're not being a good boy right now.
Are you a bad boy? Are you a bad boy?
You
Is that
seem
what
to be
this
a
is?
bad boy at this moment.
We both stepped on Jen.
Oh, I don't even think this is. I'm making a mistake by telling the story, but
I'm listening.
I was in San Francisco fairly recently, and coming back to my hotel in Japantown. There
give out
was
that much detail.
all of my.
The world is a jungle, Janet.
Okay, well, I'm learning a lot by telling the story. We heard sirens. We heard some sort of a screaming sound that did get louder as we got closer to the hotel Japantown area. But it was like you know how sometimes like Steve Martin, like picture Steve Martin trying to alert his friends in the Three Amigos in that falsetto, like up here. It was a non-female voice in falsetto, just screaming, "Water! Water!" And these firefighters had pulled up and they had encircled whoever this person was, so we couldn't see. And all the firefighters were laughing. They were trying so hard not to laugh, but they were just like, now hold water. It was so weird.
Oh my God.
It was so weird. I don't know what it was. I can't get to the bottom of
You
it.
sound like Martin Prince. that sounds very much like Martin Prince.
It was not unlike that. I mean, if one of you guys wants to do it, I'll tell you.
Water. Like that guy?
Water! Make it more like shrill.
Well, and there was a fire and the person needed water.
There absolutely was no fire anywhere in sight.
The person just wanted water.
I don't know if they were dehydrated. Yeah, they were just. That's what they were just.
Did they
kept,
take a
and
sip
they
of
were
water
on
and
the
go,
ground.
"Oh, thank you very much," and then they walk
Yeah,
off.
I mean, I wish.
That's the trick.
I never got to the bottom of
There
it.
we go.
My friends, Tom Kenny and Paul Kozlowski, and people might know these people, moved to San Francisco in the mid '80s to be stand-ups, and Kevin Meaney, the late great Kevin Meaney from Boston, was visiting them.
Those are big boy pants.
Yeah, a brilliant man,
comedian.
brilliant comedian, and they lived they didn't know the city. They lived at 14th and Castro. They had no idea.
Oh, right.
They just got this apartment, and which is the heart of the area of not straight people. And one day, Danny was just outside getting the paper or something, and he just heard this crazy guy going, "Jimmy Johnny, Jimmy Johnny, Jimmy Johnny, Jimmy Johnny, Jimmy Johnny, Jimmy Johnny." And he's like, "What the fuck? Jimmy Johnny, Jimmy Johnny." And he looked around, and he walked to the corner, and it was Meanie just standing on the corner pretending to be a crazy person. And Danny and Kevin saw Danny and just burst out laughing, like, "Got me." I'm pretending to be a crazy person.
Oh, he wasn't for them. He
No,
was
just doing it for himself.
Just
doing it for himself.
Funny.
Yeah,
really funny.
And they said, like, again, you have to like talk about like fighting stereotypes. This is mid 1980s. These three naive straight guys move into the nexus of the San Francisco gay culture. 14th
So
and
far,
Castro.
sounds like the plot of Full House.
It is the plot of their first day in the neighborhood, they see a guy fighting with his boyfriend, hitting him with a flute case. Screaming, what goes around comes around, you'll get yours.
I love
You're not
Castro.
helping. You're not helping.
What a great
love it.
time it must have been to be there in San Francisco for comedy at that time. I mean, San Francisco is an
it was-
amazing
it
place
was
to
crazy.
do comedy now.
Yes.
But back then, I'll bet it was incredible.
Yeah, it was.
I mean,
I have a great story I can tell you when we're done.
Okay.
Perfect.
Well, it's such a literate city, and it's a city where people.
It had 2 full-time stand-up comedy newspapers.
Oh my!
It did?
Yes, it had.
I didn't know that.
It had Just for Laughs, and then another like the Ha Ha, like these fan newspapers, and you'd go on the Alex Bennett show, which was a local radio show, and you had a little star, you had a little fandom, like you would have. It was insane. It was
great.
It was actually kneecapping for a comedian because you didn't want to leave because it was like being on a hot tub.
Right.
And you know, then you have to go out into the world. But no, it was fantastic.
Well, that's why doing
Fantastic.
Sketchfest is. I mean, and I've done maybe like 12 of the last 13 or something like that.
I'm sure that's true. Yeah.
But it's just such an incredible place to do comedy.
the audiences are fantastic. We're
It's a
very
great
lucky.
city. I
Yeah.
love everything.
How do you
about it.
continue to grow Sketchfest every year?
Well, I mean, I think I don't know that we've grown it because we already have like over 200 shows and the festival's, almost 3 full weeks long. I feel like we've sort of reached, at this point, we've sort of capped out to kind of the amount of shows that we do. But, it's just one of those, like, it was the first lesson I learned so quickly about the sort of ripple effect of show business, which is that if you have one great person that a bunch of people really like and you can get them to come there and then they say nice things about it, you have exponential reach that you wouldn't have had otherwise because it's such a small community. So, when we started having people like the Fred Willards of the world and the Upright Citizens Brigade and names that people recognized, then everybody around them when we would go the next time around the next year and say, hey, we would really love to have you. We've had these people. And then they did the work for us in a lot of ways. I mean, we had to make sure people have a good time when they come, but other people create our reputation for us in the sense
Yeah,
that,
but you still have to run the festival well.
Yeah,
and it is a remarkable, because I remember the first time I did it was in 2005 and we'd only been dating a couple of months. And
Wait a minute, we were dating in 2005.
don't
Oh my
worry about
God.
it, Dana. I told you. Now who was dating?
we are show business husband and wife. We've determined that we are show business husband and wife. So.
Very scary. Because I was also
That's
not
the
looking
keeper.
at you.
I know, no.
It was very organic. But
We're not computers, Chris. We're physical.
but at the time, you'd only been doing the festival for a couple of years, and you put Mike Furman and I with Bruce McCullough on a show, and I was like, it fucking blew my mind.
Yeah.
It just blew my mind that
Yeah.
you guys, you and Cole and Dave were just like, hey, why don't we just make a thing and it's mainly for our friends, but we'll just get some other people to come in and like make it official.
Yeah, and hats off too, because it's just people probably do understand it's an unfeasible amount of work, just logistically.
I saw
Yeah.
Janet
I don't
have
know
many
how-
breakdowns over the
Sure.
years, but
yeah.
they would always, but the breakdowns lasted less time each year.
Yeah.
Until until I think maybe like five years ago, you're like, well, yeah, no, we actually hired people because you guys just used to do fucking everything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really, and I would imagine also the unfortunate side of that is seeing the business side of comedians that you respect. And you're
Yeah,
like,
there's that.
This person I liked is actually not the
that-
best person to
that
work
always-
with.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, we've
And
had
being-
that
and
with just
kinda
the way people treat other people too. Just like they seem great and then they get to the festival. It's so rare, but on the rare occasion that happens, and then somebody is like really mean to our drivers or someone they think they can get away with not being nice to, like it's not going to get back to you. It's crushing. I'm very glad that's rare, but it does occasionally happen, and you're like, no,
Not you.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I saw a comedian that I really respected just chewing somebody out at a different thing, and I was like, oh, no.
Yeah.
Not you.
Yeah. Oh, not. double plus ungood.
Well, the upside to that is that it makes you very
It was
aware.
Marty Allen.
Oh my God!
Hello there. And then he yelled at her.
You call this a tuna?
But it also makes you very aware of how you behave. You know, like when you see people misbehaving, because it, you know,
sure.
'cause it just makes you more like, oh, okay, maybe I'm not gonna be, because when you, in the last handful of years, you, Janet, are now like, Cora is that is iconic, and you know, people need to. I think when people find out that you're a very sweet, compassionate human being, they need to know that when they are attached to a show like that, because if you were a dick, it would literally destroy some of their worlds.
Absolutely. You are. I'm not answering for you, but
Please.
It's well, go ahead.
Well, no, I wasn't.
I was just going to say, I remember once being with George Carlin, who I mentioned earlier, and we were talking, and somebody just came up and interrupted us both to say something about George, and like just basically like, "Hey, anyway,"
Yeah,
and it was pretty rude and forward, and he was incredibly gracious and solicitous, and gave them everything they wanted, and then they walked away, and he just goes, "You got to remember that moment's not about you; it's about them."
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, he was the greatest. He was the greatest.
I really like Kelly too. That book she wrote was wonderful.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
What were you going to say about the Coraverse?
Was I going to say something? No, I don't know. I mean, I think that's true, especially people who do conventions, and then you're like, wait, I don't think you like people that much. Why are you like signing an autograph and potentially ruining someone's day by not being awesome because you want money, which happens sometimes with celebrities who do signings.
I would say it happens a lot of the time.
Where you're like, maybe there's got to be another way for you to make some cash, because you've just crushed the dreams of this person who was like, I've loved you forever.
And who probably paid, and probably paid for that too.
Yeah.
Totally. Oh, totally paid for it.
Yeah,
because that's the reason the person's there. Like the celebrity's there. It's clear that they are only there for that reason. Then you're like, that's not a good enough reason. Like,
I think one of the
precious.
biggest curses in entertainment is if you hate your audience.
Yeah.
You know, like if you don't have the gift of having an audience of people that you like, you probably hang out with them, you know, then that's a huge bummer, because because then the audience gets shortchanged, and then you're never that person's never satisfied.
Totally.
And I always think how lucky I am that when people come up to me, I go, "Oh, that's probably someone I would have hung out with."
Absolutely,
You know?
true.
And there's also just I'm really fascinated by these personalities of like Jerry Lewis, who was so in desperate Jurassic need of attention and approval, and was such a cock to people. It's terrible.
Yeah,
to
it's
people.
a really dangerous combination.
It's such a somebody I know walked up to Chrissy Hines once and said, "Excuse me," and she just turned and said, "Fuck off."
Oh wow!
And it wasn't even like at an airport; like it was at a show. They were backstage, and I think it was just like, "I need to get through here."
Oh,
fuck off!
Oh,
that's rock and roll, Dana. That's just rock and roll.
That's how it works, man.
Yeah,
that's just how it works.
That's her way of saying I love you.
But I think it's
well. Then I know a lot of women. It's like, I love you over the years.
You're doing great, buddy.
Turns out I'm a Lothario.
You're doing really, really great.
But you know, when people sort of carry a different era into a new era,
that's also very
it can
very
be
true.
Because I'm sure
Well observed.
and I'm not defending, you know.
No, in the late '70s, at the height of punk and new wave, that was like,
but also I mean with Jerry Lewis, like there was the period of time where celebrities were very much not in the did not have to deal with the plebes in any way, and didn't have to respect them, didn't have to have a conversation with them, just I do my thing, this is my job, don't fucking know, and got away with it, and also at a time when there was less therapy and more pills. You know, I would imagine people weren't really dealing.
I don't think Jerry ever took pills, Chris.
What? But you know, people just weren't really dealing with whatever kind of mental, the types of mental illness and issues that we all go, well, we got to talk to a therapist. Like we all have problems, we all got to talk to a therapist. Back then, it was just like walk it off, you know, and then just never dealt with anything. And that was just part of their culture, and then it just kind of solidified in their bones.
Yeah. He's a specific case of it's like the worst aspects of both worlds, like the narcissism and the need, the naked emotional need and narcissism of a comedian, and then the emotional austerity and haughtiness of like a tortured celebrity. And it's like, actually, you need neither one of these. You can take both of these down about 100%, and you'd be fine. It is fascinating. I'm fascinated by those guys, those old, you know, Johnny Lydon, another guy, just despises his audience.
But that you buy into.
Yeah, it's a shtick.
It's a shtick, and it's like, you almost like, he spit on me, you know, like that.
Exactly,
in that case, that's where you kind of go, oh, he did the thing, he did it.
Yeah, like are there people that you are a fan of that you would shy away from meeting?
I love your Tom York story. Speaking of like things like that sometimes come anytime anyone brings up Radiohead or I always hear your voice
Still
saying,
love 'em.
This interview is over.
This interview's I was working at K-Rock in the 90s, and right after Creep came out, and they blew up. And at the time, I don't think anyone really expected they were going to be more than like that song.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, they're one of the most progressive, innovative bands in music. But at the time, there was an acoustic Christmas, and I was supposed to interview. That's the dishwasher. Katie, could you just go, just open the dishwasher so that it stops beeping? So at the time, it's a very professional setup here.
Yes.
At Hardwick House.
Can't you just tell R2 to stop beating?
R2's jerking off to a tuna sandwich.
There you go. Keep the illusion. Keep up the illusion.
Right. But, so I was backstage at Acoustic Christmas. Oh, my.
WD 40. I wrote the WD-40 song. Some guy says that.
That's great. So we're backstage at Acoustic Christmas. It's 1994. I walk backstage, and someone goes, hey, do you want to interview Radiohead? I was working at K-Rock at the time. I was a DJ.
I remember.
And I go, sure. And they go, great. Jed the Fish was supposed to do it, but he had to go somewhere else. I don't know what happened. I don't know what they were upset about. I don't know if they felt blown off by Jed the Fish or what had transpired up to that point. But I walked in, and all I said to them was, hi, I'm Chris. Nice to meet you. And Tom York stood up and goes, this interview's over. And he just stormed out. And I ran into him.
Didn't do anything wrong.
Nothing. I ran into him later that night, and I was like, I don't know what happened, but I'm really sorry. And he just wouldn't even talk to me. So I was part of whatever the problem was. And maybe he hated Singled Out. I don't know what his problem was, but
hated Singled Out.
Might have hated Singled Out. But and so that's my like meaning of the celebrity story. But I was always, Steve Martin was a guy I was really terrified to meet. But then I met him and he was lovely.
He's lovely, yeah.
And so that took that away. So I think really, Bill Murray's probably the last one. Met him at a golf course when I was in college. I was working there, and
I would be leery about meeting him.
He was friendly, but I don't know what he's like now.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's like now.
I think he's. I think
he's great when he feels like being great.
He's great when he feels like being great. Yeah.
And if not, I think there's a guy that really suffers zero consequences for anything that he says or does, and so it doesn't. I almost don't even blame him. I'm like, well, he doesn't. He's not tethered to anything.
Yeah.
So there's no. He's mythological. He could just appear.
It's like I met Paul McCartney, and I was like, you don't even know what reality's like.
Did you say that to him?
No, but I just asked him if I killed him, if I would become him.
I think that's the math on that checks out.
Well, we had him on the podcast. He was lovely.
He's incredibly great.
And he even sort of acknowledged the fact that he referred to the other guy on stage of himself being like, oh, when the other guy is on stage.
Right. Yeah.
But in life, he seems very, he's like, I kind of don't, when people want to take pictures, I'd rather they just say, hey, hello? Can we just have a quick little conversation?
Yeah.
Like he really just, and it was also interesting that he, of all the people that come on and like bring publicists or studio people or whatever, It was just him in his fucking office. And I was like, well, Paul McCartney didn't need 9 publicists.
Yeah, I know. Why do you
third lead on a sci-fi show?
Yeah.
You know?
No, that's a really good. That's the
whole
really
point.
good
Right,
point.
I guess that's true.
Yeah, no, but like again, in terms of getting the opportunity to see how other people behave and how other people work, and sort of going, that seems classy. Can I also be really classy?
I like the sort of tone of this conversation now, which is about fandom, because you are a part of Korra, which is an insane fandom, and you are a part of a lot of different fandoms that are then
Micro fandoms
that are then re-expressed in a show like Stand Against Evil. And so, I mean, do you think fandom's in a good place at the moment in terms of, because fans have ostensibly so much control over
access
and control? Do you think that's good? Like, more access is great. Why wouldn't it be? Or do you think that just a small handful of people kind of abuse that and ruin it for everyone?
I think a small handful of people do abuse it. I don't know that they ruin it for everyone. I've also been really lucky because the kind of shows I've done that have great fan bases, that have like incredibly respectful, warm, kind, like non-invasive, I don't ever get trolled, like I just don't have those sorts of experiences, so I feel great about the access. I feel like we do still have like a certain, there's still a choice in how engaged to be or not to be. That
is the question?
Nope. But I'm sure that that's not true for everyone. I also feel like it maybe depends on, I'm also not like, I don't engage on social media. Like I've chosen how much or how little I feel comfortable with.
Yeah, I rarely respond to people on social media. Like I don't like go seek out, friendships and things on Twitter. I have friends. What if I have any fandom at all? It's because of my stand-up. And I think because the nature of my act is pretty personal and revealing, that people sometimes feel like they're closer to you than they actually are. And so I have like Night of the Living Dead, I have a small but dedicated group of followers, and also because of a podcast, which all three of us can speak to. You have a weird intimacy with people because they spend a lot of time alone with you.
Yeah.
They're in their car with you, and they're going to work with you.
But also, it's a very and a lot of people, it's headphones.
Yeah,
and so you're very. And with podcasts that I listen to, you're literally putting it in your body. Like it's very intimate.
And you have to be really respectful of that. If I met Karina Longworth, I would be like, blah, blah, but I have to remember, she doesn't know you.
Right.
She, you know her. She doesn't know you.
Right.
And that's the key. The key thing.
But you in particular deal with a lot of different fandoms because you're involved with Lucha Vavoom, which is a whole separate fandom as well. Are there through lines? Are there things that you think kind of connect all of the fandoms, consistencies?
Well, for my case, I've finally gotten like a connective tissue in that, like, it's the adult monster kids. Like the show Stan and my podcast. And I've kind of like what I really like in my life is sort of finally bubbled up into my sort of public work, and I have, it's like you said about, it's a micro version of what you experience. Like all the people that come up to me that like really know what I do, I'm like, oh, I totally hang out with you. Totally hang out with you. It'd be great.
I remember like one of the first times I saw you do stand-up, it was during the comedy boom. It might have been the late 80s on something.
Sounds like me.
And what was so interesting about it was that
a lot of my earlier life has been colorized by Ted Turner.
You had that little widow's peak and lived in that old house with the Frankenstein monster dead. But it was coming out of the 80s boom, and so you a lot of your comedy was almost a satire of an 80s comic.
Yeah, it was.
But all of the things you were saying were deeply dark.
I had a dark period.
It was a lot of like, your mom's building a crucifix. If you're gonna do, we might as well do it the right way.
Yeah, it was very pop accessible stories of terrible depression and
I mean, like
dysfunction.
almost in the sense that if Bill Hicks had like a friendly, like he would drift into that sometimes too, like a little bit of the, hey, isn't that fun? You know, like
he would, and I've always liked that especially in music. Like I love a song like "Girlfriend in a Coma," which is a beautiful pop song, and then you listen to what they're actually singing, and it's really dark, and so dark it's funny.
Yeah.
Or a jam song like "Welcome to Milton Keynes," which is a just beautiful pop song about people that are so fucking poor.
Right.
And I love that. I think that's a great way to put stuff across, and that was very intentional. That was why I never although I love punk and I'd go to punk shows, I never looked like a punk because I always thought it was better to deliver. It's better to get that message from a very socially acceptable vessel.
Right.
And Bill just he had a very cherubic look. He was just a naturally cherubic fella.
Yeah.
Then I think Dennis Leary had more success doing that kind of stuff because he looked like people. He looked like what people wanted to get that message
did
from.
The cartoon with the leather jacket and the smoking.
Yeah, he looked like what people wanted to hear that message from.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because it was somehow not as threatening as from Bill, because Bill was real.
Well, also, Bill,
not that Dennis isn't real. I mean, Dennis,
No.
I've known Dennis forever. He's Dennis. He's a real guy.
But Dennis's material was a lot about him.
It was more affect.
It was more. It was more also about himself. And
Yes.
like, I'm a smoker, you know.
Right.
And Bill Hicks was a lot of his stuff, which is stunning to me that he was touring and basically just touring, going, "You're all fucking stupid."
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
here's why you're fucking stupid.
He said,
and that can be very. An audience doesn't always. I mean, it's funny when you hear about it or when you see it, but probably not super fun for some of the audience.
Yeah,
at the show.
We walked around Disney World one day, and that was one of the most surreal experiences of my life.
You walked around Disney World with Bill Hicks?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Wow.
We were both in Orlando at the same time. Like, what do you want to do? I don't know. Should we go to Disney World? I guess. There's nothing else to do.
The way all people should experience
There's
Disney
nothing
World,
else to
I
do.
guess.
And he said, and he had that issue, and he said that he would say this on stage, but he also said it and meant it. He's like, shit, man, I can't sell out Caroline's on a Saturday night, and they're dredging Lake Erie to put in bleacher seats for Carrot Top. Yeah, exactly. But it was just however you choose to deliver, that stuff. But I think people like Bill or people like the Smiths or whoever, Radiohead, like if you have a dark message that maybe will limit your mass popularity, your audience will be that much more dedicated. It's like I have, I've been doing comedy 735 years, and I'm still in the clubs. I'm going to Zanies this weekend in Chicago, which is a lot more uplifting than the old club in Chicago, Morose's.
Totally different.
But I don't do theaters. I still do 3 nights in a club, but I have people that have been coming to see me since the mid-90s.
Oh, wow. I think clubs are...
They're longer.
They are,
They're 2 days longer.
They are, but my last tour, I did a theater tour, and now I'm doing clubs because I really need the material.
Yeah.
And you just need to perform a lot. And I love it because you can't.
Theater's really hard.
There's a theater is very presentational, but
Yes.
a club is so intimate, and you
Yes.
can talk to the audience and fuck around with them.
Theater's a performance. A club is a conversation.
Yeah.
And you don't have the 2-second delay that really still throws me off after doing it all these years.
Just letting it hit the back of the room.
Yeah.
Are you performing? Are you doing stuff with any groups, any sketch groups?
Yeah, I mean, I always end up doing more shows than I probably should at Sketchfest.
You do
we just
more
are
of
playing
everything than you
night.
should.
Oh, that's true, too. Yeah, we'll do stuff. I'll do stuff with like the Thrilling Adventure, Work Juice World.
Did you do Plan 9 yet?
We did
or is
Plan
that
9 last
Yeah, we did
night.
Plan
and it
9
was
last
amazing.
night.
at Largo.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
You should do it next time.
I'll do it.
It's so
It's
funny.
so great. There's really, for those of you who don't know, we do Janet and I and our friends do a live stage reading of Plan 9 from Outer Space. We don't we don't add. We just read the script. And there's there's yet to be another script that we have found that does what that script does.
Well, you're being modest because you wrote stage directions.
Yeah, I
there's
did.
a narration. There's a narrative thread that Dana wrote that is read throughout. That is providing
pretty funny,
commentary,
yeah.
and it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
And it just ties the whole thing together in this very meta way.
Yeah.
And I don't think I've ever done a show where you never stop laughing. The audience never stops laughing, and they come up afterwards and are like, "My face hurts." I know that's a cliche that almost
really
never
true.
actually happens, but my face hurts.
It is, and it's God bless Ed Wood. It that movie that story is so inept, and it's so sincere.
Yeah,
and
so
it's,
sincere.
So, it just oozes, and nothing. That for what we just sort of
very
landed
special,
on it.
yeah.
We just and it. It's so funny all the way through, and we do that. And we're trying to find another script to do to sort of broaden our repertoire.
But it's hard to that's a difficult balance to
Yeah,
find.
we're kind of like,
yeah.
should we just do something totally different? Just to not
The
even
daring
like that.
Dobermans.
You should do one time. You should do one and just have Jonah sit in the front row with a couple of robots,
Yeah,
and then just
Jonah
does-
does Jeff Trent. He played the
God,
lead
he
in Plan
plays
9 last night.
Yeah.
And he does an amazing
His voice.
I don't understand.
Oh, that guy!
Oh,
Yeah,
God,
he
it's
did it.
so good.
That's a legendary character on the Nerdist podcast because he probably 5 or 6 years ago we were talking about. He was like, "Oh, there's always like a guy in those '80s movies where there's like Coke. There's like a Coke cartel, and there's always one guy who's just says, "Where's the guy? It's in the back." Like it's just like there's always a guy that says the thing is in the back.
It's in the back.
And we named that character Bruce Gutter. And so
Gutter.
he would recur from time to time. It's in the back.
God.
Yeah,
It's
yeah, but
so
Jonah's
good.
it's perfect.
Yeah.
It's
So
absolutely
good.
perfect.
The guy in Plan 9 is an actor named Gregory Walcott, who actually had a pretty good career. If you looked him up online, you go, "Oh yeah, I've seen that guy. He's in Sugarland Express, and and he's in Ed Wood too, and he has this great iconic line in Ed Wood where he goes, 'What role does Vampira play?' And it's just like, oh, that's Gregory Walcott. She's standing right over there.
Cut, we got it.
Yeah,
Just one
thank
take.
you. One
Yep.
take. That's all you want.
That's all we
It's
got.
almost Gregory Peck. It's almost Gregory Peck.
Yeah.
Almost Gregory
Yeah.
Peck.
We used to do a room bit in The Simpsons of Gregory Peck auditioning for multiple Megs in Silence of the Lambs. We don't really want to star in Please, I'd like to read it. Well, we don't want to star in Please, can I just audition? I think I've earned the right to audition. All right, Mr. Peck. I can smell your cunt. Okay, thank you, Mr. Peck. Please, can I just have one? No. Let me just take another crack at it.
When do I throw my jizz?
I can smell your... No.
Mr. Beck, that's a different character.
gotta write the
You
first-
will never throw your jizz. Mr.
don't
Beck,
need
you
to-
never throw your
That
jizz.
was Flipper.
I've already
No,
prepared
no,
it.
God, no.
I just went to Arthur Treacher's and got 2 packs of tartar sauce. I was ready to give you as many takes as you needed.
You're going to use your tartar sausages? No, it gets me off.
No, it turns me on. Go on, what do you think?
When Dick Siemens told me he was going to start making tartar
He's
sauce, I said, that sounds like a bad idea.
He's my investment broker.
I love whale pussy.
Just bringing it back around. Just bringing it back
Gotta
around.
bring it all the way around.
Just bring it all the way
Got
around.
to.
What sort of comedy stuff are you planning for Sketchfest this year? Could you say anything yet?
Well, no. I mean, we
Fuck!
yeah, sorry. We released a lineup kind of all together in a couple of weeks.
Jesus.
This has gone
and you have
very
to-
south.
And how many?
Fuck!
Yeah.
But how
oh
many
my
shows
God.
do you have?
It'll be over 200.
Over
for
200.
sure,
And how many
yeah.
comedians do you book?
Well, the people that
3.
we fly in and house,
Yeah.
it is like 300 to 400, and then there will be another 800 of kind of up and comers that will get themselves there to showcase that we'll put on shows for people.
How do you make money?
I mean, it's not much, but
they don't
we
lose
love
money.
doing it. We don't. Yeah, we don't.
No,
lose
it's like
money.
it's like Plan 9. It's like everybody gets a little bit of money.
Yeah.
And everybody's happy.
Yeah,
But you can't not do it. I mean, it's a
We gotta
fucking
do it.
institution. And
Yeah.
it's the best. It is the best comedy festival in the country by a long shot.
No, it means a lot when you say that. That's really nice.
And the best thing about for people like in the business, the 3 things that we're talking about, like Sketchfest, this podcast, Stand Against Evil, every one of them was just something that we started.
Just because you're like, I want
had
to do
the
something
same.
for myself.
I was writing on a sitcom to make money because I was getting divorced and I needed money. And I was writing on a show that I wasn't well suited to write for, and I basically spent a lot of my time in my office with the door shut. And I just thought, I'm just going to write something that I can make digitally and make it 7 minutes long. And I wrote this stupid thing about my dad fighting monsters, and I was going to play my dad. And just do it for fun, to make it work, to justify the time I was spending in this job I didn't belong in. And it ended up, for a lot of different permutations, becoming a show. Sketchfest is this thing that you started, and then it balloons into this thing. Same with the Nerdist. And it's the best advice that I tell people is things lead to things, period. And Francis Ford Coppola said once, if you start at one end of town with a bass drum and you walk down the middle of the street, by the time you get to the other end of town, you will have a parade behind you.
Yeah.
But you have to start.
Yeah.
And that's really like people, you want to do something, you want to be a writer? Great, start writing. You want to be an actor? Write something and act in it. You want to be a producer? Produce something and act in it. Right.
Gregory Peck once said,
Please, I worked on this at home. Let me just audition for it. Please.
If I can play Atticus Finch, I think I can play multiple Megs. I also would like to play the guy in Escape from New York who has Donald Pleasant's finger.
Well, they already made that movie, Mr. Pitt.
Please,
make it.
if you try to rescue him, he dies.
Yes, we've seen the movie.
Please, I'm auditioning.
You're auditioning for a movie that's been made.
Trying to get someone to listen to him. He's just, please.
I would like to play Quint.
That movie has been made. It's in theaters.
Look at your hands. You have city hands.
Yes,
Been
it's
counting
great.
money.
It's great.
Been counting money all your life.
I just am here to take your order. I can't actually.
When do we film? I can't do that.
And he storms out.
Where are you with JV Club podcast?
260.
That's crazy.
262, something like that. Yeah, I love it. It's been so fun. It's been, again, it's another thing that, I was like, I'd like to have a podcast. And we were together at the time, and you're like, you should have a podcast. And I was like, no, I don't know. What am I going to bring to the table that isn't, really, that's the other thing, right? You get bogged down in this idea of spending so much time looking around you, that you're like, well, whatever I'm going to do, it's probably already out there. Or, why would I do it well if somebody else is, and just to go like, well, we'll just find the thing. You gave me such great advice. You were just, you're like, you'll know. But like actually really think about it and think about a thing that will be fun to you that you won't get tired of doing, that maybe isn't out there. There's going to be some version because it's going to be you. It's not going to be anybody else, and like own that. And that absolutely was great advice.
I'm so glad to hear that, because it really is. You always forget that you are, because you don't have the proper perspective on yourself, that the whole collection of cells and everything that you are is what the special packages, because no one else has that collection of experiences and cells and everything, and so it's easy. And it's the same with stand-up too, where you go, my life isn't that interesting. Like, well, just be yourself. Like, be as much yourself as possible, because the more yourself you are, the less like anyone else you are.
Yeah, totally.
Oh,
And,
wow.
And that's the.
Look at you. You buried that little, buried that little
it's a
pearl right in the
beautiful-
back.
It's right in the middle there. But you're doing a hand gesture like it's a fingering
Yeah,
thing.
you buried
which
that
is
beautiful
very-
little pearl necklace right in there. You just
Look
buried
at
it right
you.
in there.
Look it right in there.
Look what you just
right in
did.
there. And you're coming around the
Look what you
back.
just
and
did.
Meaningful as it was, stop
you just
punching that
did.
person.
But you've done his choke. But you've done such a great job, Barnes, and I'm so proud of how. It's exciting because when I always knew that you're like one of the funniest people I have ever met. But it's been so fun over the years to just see how much you've worked. And to see other people discover that's so much. It's been so much fun.
Oh, that's great. I feel really lucky, and I feel really lucky and inspired to be around, such an amazing community of people, and like to feel that's one of the main things that like Dana and Jimmy Pardo and Paul F were, I didn't like stand-up. I only kind of liked a little bit of stand-up when I moved here. And that was after I even had a comedy festival. It just wasn't necessarily my thing.
We don't
and
like it
David
either.
Cross, yeah, but you know what I mean? I had an association with it that just, it didn't feel me because I was so into sketch and improv and stuff. And to be like on that stage last night, I don't take that for granted for a second. To be like, oh, I was invited to be a part of this thing that Lorraine Newman and Brian Posehn and Jonah Ray and Paul F. Tompkins
Bronger and all
and
these
Bronger.
people,
And to feel like you have a place in that community, that's like the best feeling in the world. It really is.
Yeah.
People should really understand, because I remember when we started dating, I had just gotten sober and you had just moved to LA.
Oh, yeah.
And so we were both just dealing with stuff. And
He was Mr. and Mrs. Raw.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Totally.
We
But-
were just raw. Yeah,
that's where the passion was.
That's right.
man.
That's right.
But also just for, it's
That
such-
always works.
It's such a good lesson for anyone, because when you came to LA, you you just felt like, I got nothing, and I don't have no one is going to give a shit, and I got nothing to show people, and I don't get. And even as convinced as you were at the time that you weren't going to figure it out, you figured it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it was. If you could go back and tell that young woman something, what would you say?
I mean, I think it's a total cliche. It's the whole get out of your own way kind of thing. That you just don't spend time worrying that the future is going to look a way that you don't want it to, because that's a complete and total waste of energy.
And do everything. I've talked to people who have like open micers that don't want to do something because they feel it might be off brand.
I'm like, what do you do? Just
dude.
fucking. My nephew is 18 and he just started college at UT, and he was like, I want to do comedy, and I go, great, and he goes, could I perform at ID10T Festival this year? And I go, yeah, but you got to get on stage.
Yeah.
And so I've been sending him notebooks and like giving him tips, and I love it because he's so voraciously consuming it. And I said, when I was in college, and I knew you when I was in college, we had a comedy group that would meet once a week and help each other write material. It's where I met Mike Furman and people like Steve Callahan, and we would run into you occasionally, and he was like, well, I want to start. So I told them what we did and how we ran it. And I say the same, the advice that I was given when I started, I go, but no matter, because he texts me every once in a while, he goes, I'm having a hard time trying to understand how an audience is going to respond to someone. I go, well, you haven't been in front of an audience yet.
You gotta just do
So
it.
I go, you have to get on stage 100 times.
Yeah.
And you'll
It's
know.
it's just like parachuting or scuba. You know how you learn how to do it? By doing it.
But
the other way does not exist.
I'm so excited for him to because he's so excited about it.
Yeah.
And watching him kind of begin that journey is really, really fun, because it's heartbreaking but fun and exciting and nerve-wracking and all of those things.
That must be hard too, to be able to, you have to let them go do it and know that, you're going to have really great sets, and then you're going to have sets where you just wish you were dead.
I told him that. I was like, but if in your mind, as much as you're beating yourself up in the car afterwards, if you go, but I got to get up tomorrow night.
You got to do it again tomorrow night.
Then you're doing the right thing.
Yeah. I always imagine this, apparently the story of, this may be apocryphal, but Jacob Dylan, Bob Dylan's son, said hey, I'm thinking of starting a band. And his dad invited, well, let's go down to the boxing gym.
Right.
And it was just like, so I'm being in a band, huh? Yeah, I think I can do what you do. Okay.
I hope his father gave him even that much attention.
I think he did.
I hope so.
I think he did. All of his kids seem pretty well-adjusted folks.
Yeah, I never met Jacob when I worked at K-Rock, and that's when the Wallflowers really were cranking. But he seemed like a sweet guy.
My friend sat next to Bob at Jesse's wedding, and he's a TV writer, and he said to Bob, he goes, Bob, you must be very proud and happy. Your sons are great. Everybody loves them. They're really terrific people. And Bob doesn't want to. He goes, what do you do? He goes, I'm a TV writer. He goes, what do you write on? Right now, I'm writing a show called Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And Bob clearly didn't know what to say. He goes, oh, yeah, that's a good show. He goes, that's on all the time.
And then Bob Dylan started going, now this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute and I'll tell you how I became the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
It'd be great if you started with hip, hop, hippity, hop.
Hippity hop hop, the heavy, you don't stop, the jam damn the boogie.
I think rap should still start with, my name is Bob, and I'm here to say.
I'm going to expand your mind in a remarkable way.
But I love that. It's a good show.
It's a good show.
It's on all the time.
That's really sweet.
That's the mark of a good
That's
show.
how you know. Let's put this on all the time.
Undeniable.
Let's just run it constantly.
So Standing Against Evil is this will air, but this will go up by the time Stand starts November 1st.
Yeah, and it's on every Wednesday night at 10 o'clock on IFC.
Season 2.
Season 2, yeah.
It's
I was very happy.
Janet and John McGinley fighting evil.
Fighting demons.
Fighting demons.
And it's not CG, it's dudes in suits.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
We got a dude on stilts wearing a dress over him, spitting vines at
I
people.
want to hear how the sauce is made.
How do we get back to dolphins?
So they got the cloaca. Is that it? Is that how it works?
Cut my fin. Say my name. Say my name. Flipper. That's it, bitch. Say my name. Flipper. Look, it's all over you now. Can I put my bottle nose in your butt just for like a minute? You'll wash, but you'll never be clean. You can shower, but you'll always stink like fish. Oh, Flipper, when did you become evil? Evil Flipper. There's your show.
Yeah.
Evil Flipper.
Yeah, that's a great idea. What are you working on, like 9 things right now besides Sketchfest?
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm doing like an IFC streaming thing that I am writing now that I have to somehow shoot after Sketchfest. And then we have this, and then I think You're the Worst is still on. It hasn't finished its season yet, but it's got to be close. And the podcast and
JV Club.
Yeah. Those are the main things.
And Dana, your special, Mr. Funny Man, is
It's just an album. It's not
Just an album.
Just an album, and it's available on iTunes,
I would call that special.
Amazon.
Amazon.
It's available on Amazon and iTunes.
It really is.
Yeah, I didn't. It was, you feel material it gets ripe and then it starts to rot.
Yep.
And I was going to do a special, and quite literally the dates fell apart for production reasons. And we were getting ready to go to Atlanta and shoot. And I was like, I would have to have then stopped for 3 months and then gone back on the road and getting back in shape again.
Dana Gould, you're a victim of your own success.
I said, I don't have time. Let's just record it as an album. And it's on Kill Rock Stars. I'm really, because it's a punk label, which I felt very at home on. And it was great. I'm really happy, really proud of it. And I really like working with those folks.
What was there's a bit of yours that I think about sometimes. Well, there's a couple. The one is
Many not repeatable.
living above an erotic bakery and feasting on day old chocolate cocks.
Right, bakery named Caligula's Fist.
Yep. And then the other one was a bit of you explaining to the audience why you adopted, because your daughters are all adopted.
Yeah.
And it's such a beautiful
Well, let me look at the members of my family. Religious weirdo, gun nut, biker, boozer, dead tooth, too many cats, the guy who talks to his truck. Maybe I adopted because genetically my balls are full of poison.
Weirdly, I remember you coming home from the improv and telling me about that bit.
It wasn't the improv. I did see that at the improv.
That's funny.
Yeah. You were like, oh my God, Dana Gould said the greatest thing tonight.
About his balls.
I was like, goodbye. And I
You were
closed
one
the
of the people
door.
that made me feel like it was okay that there are ways to express eloquent filth.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
Just because I always felt bad.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
I felt bad.
I'm just doing George Carlin. I'm not even pretending to be original about it.
And then there's a thing you said at Largo once. I don't want to say who you were referring to, but there was another comedian that you referred to as not being funny, and you go, so-and-so's about as funny as coming home from a dead baby's funeral and seeing its toy box in the living room. That one was like a fucking sucker punch, and like that laughs from the Largo audience. That night were like, ah!
That's a quote of my father's. That's
my God,
Stan.
You got to write it into the show.
Stan is my dad, and my dad would say, that guy's about as funny as a dead baby's toy box. He once said he's
so crazy.
I know.
His dad is crazy.
One time we were looking. My dad's 87, and we were just sitting in the kitchen looking at the Us magazine, and there was a woman that was married to a little person. And my dad just looked at it and he goes, "Look at that asshole. Toe to toe, his nose is in it, and nose to nose, his toes is in it."
Jesus Christ! Your dad said that?
And I said, "Did you? Is that yours?" He goes, well, "I just said it. What?"
son, I'm a monster. What don't you understand?
I'm a horrible person. Most of the funny, don't crap an apple is something my dad said. Like a lot of Stanisms is just stuff I hear my dad say.
Jesus Christ.
Crazy.
And does he have any idea?
Not even a little.
Damn.
Not even a little.
That's sad but freeing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Yeah, sad but freeing. Well put.
Well, I'm glad you guys were here. Thanks for doing the show together.
Thanks for having us.
Congratulations.
It's really fun.
Congratulations on another season of being Evie Barrett. And I hope to, but I got to get you back on. I got to get you back on like one-on-one too, because you've never done the podcast one-on-one.
No.
Which is a crime.
It's a totally different situation. It's a totally different experience. It's very painful. You're very aggressive, confrontational.
You're on the Goldfinger table and the laser is moving slowly up between your legs.
Miss Varney.
Yeah, bring it.
Lovely to see you, Miss Varney.
Same.
But it's great, and you're one of my favorite people, so I'm glad we're still friends,
Me
even
too.
after all these years. And Dana, you very much inspired me as a comic from the earliest day, because it was just
I'm
seeing
so very old.
Poppity-corn.
seeing my grandkids.
Poppity-corns.
I watched you when I was 4.
Exactly.
No.
Chris used to come and see my two-reelers at the cinematograph.
He used to watch when I did the show with the display ape. They just would display an ape. People would look at it.
Of course, back then, many people still had prehensile tails, and they'd flop out the back of their trousers. Of course, they weren't called trousers back then.
No. They were called knee curtains.
They were called leg shirts.
They were leg shirts, and then, because we were also simians, we'd jerk off with their feet. Yeah.
Synjanthropus man would come over.
That, of course, was Australopithecus afarensis, you understand?
Of course, back then, dick pics, you had to carve it into a stone and roll it
that's
down
right.
to the village down the hill.
We called them dick logs. You had to carve out.
And that's how you get the name Dick Boulder, a good friend of mine.
Yeah, just in case you want it. And that's how the last name of Smith came to be.
Full circle.
Water. Enjoy your burrito. Okay, I know I just said enjoy your burrito, suggesting the end of the podcast, but it is a lie, because now I present to you the song that we referenced in the podcast, Fempire, featuring Janet Varney on bass and vocals, and Kit Pongetti on guitar and vocals. Produced by Mike Furman around 2005 in Los Angeles. Here's Me and My Vagina on the Nerdist Podcast. Katie, play the thing.
Nothing that a woman cannot do. My roar's like thunder at your door, sir, and my X chromosome is too loud to ignore. Yeah, my shit don't smell like roses. I'm not an angel in disguise. I don't always say I love you when your members between my thighs. Our love can never be harmonious. Your logic's too testosterone to understand my estro generosity. Senorita Jane Goodall went to live with the monkeys 'cause she couldn't stand to be around men. And Miss Harriet Tubman did not need her no loving as conductor of that underground train. Amelia Earhart was frantic, so she crossed the Atlantic to prove that we don't need a dick to fly. With my two tits as my witness, it's clitorinsky business to be in the labia majority. So deal with me and my steaming cup of femininity. Don't burn your tongue, 'cause me and my vagina are coming up behind you, and my velvet lock don't need your wooden key. To you, sir, but there are some things that a woman should not do. Your dirty dishes, well, that's a start. Pick up the pieces of your shattered little heart. Or be an architect, oh, that's too much math. And strike accountant off that list, don't feel my wrath. Women are terrible with money. Even worse, they're just not funny. We lack the balls and muscle mass for the Marines. And just forget the presidency, 'cause we show too much clemency. Ask a woman if you don't know what that means. So deal with me and my steaming cup of femininity. Don't burn your tongue, 'cause me and my vagina are coming up behind you. And my velvet lock don't need your wooden key. So deal with me and my steaming cup of femininity. Don't burn your tongue. Don't need your wooden key.
Now leaving Nerdist.com. Enjoy your burrito.